Okay.
So now we are going to have today one of the peer teachings being done by a fifth sem student, Ananya. And now over to Ananya.
Okay. Uh, I have decided to talk about the various images which are contrasting throughout the course of the story. Firstly, the image of Kuruda. Kuruda is a village which is comparatively less developed than the place Tohri. It has a pastoral scenic beauty, and the people of Kuruda are very much peace loving. They accepted Mary Orao as their tribal people. Though Mary is not a completely tribal woman, because so we all know that she has an Australian father. So they live quite peacefully. But this peaceful image of Kuruda has been changed or has disturbed by the arrival of Collector Singh or Tehsildar. I want to quote a line that a storm gathers in the Kuruda's quiet and impervasive existence. The peace-loving Kuruda people, now influenced by Collector Singh, pollute their mother nature by cutting the sal trees. So in the last part of the story, we come to know that after the murdering of Collector Singh, we might hope that the peaceful image might be restored. But it's a possible chance that it might be restored, but there is one possible chance also that it might not be. Because as soon as Mary murdered Tehsildar, she left Kuruda. For Tauri, because she wanted to united with her lover Zalim. So and there is also a point that Mary has killed one Tehsildar, not the entire profit maker collectors from the soil of Kuruda. Because in upcoming future there might be more Tehsildars who will coming here and might do the same that Tehsildar wants to do with Mary. So the previous peaceful nature of Kuruda and the present chaotic nature of or the image of Kuruda is in a contrasting manner. Now the contrasting image of Mary herself. When Mary in the second part of the story accepted the proposal of Tehsildar, then we thought that yeah, just like any other tribal woman, in order to get rid of Tehsildar, she has submitted herself to his desires. Okay, but after murdering Tehsildar, we find that goddess Kali image in her character again, a strong incarnation of Kali, like who can take revenge herself without the help of any male figure. Mary did the same. She did not take even Zalim's self in murdering Collector Singh. So there are two contrasting images. First, the Mary as an submissive woman in the second part of the play, and in the last part of the second part of the story, and in the last part of the story, her goddess Kali image again restored. And another thing, in the second part of the story, when in struggling with Collector Singh, Mary lost her machete. Collector Singh caught her by her hand, and then Mary straightly looked into his eyes. Then Mary said one thing which I like to quote. Mary thought he was an animal. The syllables beat on her. His beastly image, Collector's beastly image, stuck into her mind. Then she is determined to remove all the beast from this soil, from this place of Kuruda. She is determined that I will clear away all the beast from Kuruda by any means. So the human image of Collector is in contrasted with the beastly image of Collector. And another thing is the mother nature image and Mary's image. In our culture, in Indian culture, nature or land is not only is a place for agriculture, we consider it as our mother. Collector Singh, by cutting salt trees, pollutes the mother nature. In this act, he actually wants to pollute our culture or our women. So the concrete image of Mary is for the abstract image of nature. Like we see that the nature allows characters sing to pollute, pollute me. I have no problem, but Mary doesn't allow. Mary doesn't allow ki just collector come and have me. Because she did it only to get rid of collector's sexual assault. So I think that that the mother nature imagery is somehow submissive, but Mary is not. She is completely she is more powerful than the mother nature, because the mother nature allows herself to be cut, but Mary doesn't allow herself to be raped by or to be molested by collector Singh. And now the last part of the red sari image, and the which sir has already discussed in our class. The red sari image, which is the sexual desire of collector Singh, and the Mary wear the red sari, which is also a representative of our revenge and the fire of celebration, and so on. And sir, have I time or not?
Yeah, you continue.
Okay, sir. Now I am going to discuss about the insider and outsider image, and I want to touch the theory of Paul Michael Foucault and his theory of knowledge and power, because just so Foucault once said that the person in power holds a special position in the society. He controls everything in society. Like power and knowledge are the two sides of a standpoint. So here I want to quote something from the text. Okay, here the elders said, "What to do, Mary? If I said no, the villagers would go wild, and they would say, who give this kind of money?" Like the collector Singh's convinced Prasad in a way that what I have determined to be the price is the absolute price, and you cannot make more profit from these salaries. What I declared, or what I have said, the price is the absolute price. You can't make more profit from this except my price. So Prasadji kind of accepted this, and the villagers also accepted the labor charges, because they think that, yeah, this is the absolute labor charge. We cannot earn more than it by cutting these salaries. Later Mary convinced them that no, you can make more money, and this is not, and collector Singh just made you fool and nothing. So just collector has the power, so he holds the position, and what he said is the absolute knowledge, is the absolute truth. And people, and be it Prasadji or be the tribal people of the Kuruda, they just accepted it more. And one, if I go from the background of the story, then we can see this power politics as well, because Dixon's sons made Vikini impregnant. Okay, so the tribal people did not even punish Dixon's sons, because he was a man of power. So what he does is nothing wrong, and even Vikini did not have the power to choose her religion. Once he was a Christian, once she was tribal, then she was transformed into a Christian. Then after joining Prasadji's bungalows work, he has to convert into a Hindu. So Bikini as don't doesn't have any power. So so she even does not have any control over her own choice of religion. So I think that Michael Foucault's theory is very much relevant here, and the insider and the outsider imagery is also in a contrasting mode or in a juxtaposition manner. So that's all.
That's a very good one. A very good attempt to analyze different images, the compare and contrast the way you did. Before I would like to make any comment on what you said, first I would leave it to the students if they want to ask you anything on the topic that you discussed. So now the floor is open to all of you. If you have anyone wants to ask anything from Ananya, she would try and answer you. Any question? Any question that you might have, then you are welcome to ask. You can ask her question and she will try to answer you. Do you have any question to ask? Okay. Now, presuming that Ananya has said something so convincingly that none of her classmates have anything to ask, like, you know, when I take a class and you don't ask me any question, I always said that this means two things. Either the presentation was so brilliant that the presenter has satisfied all the queries. That can be one interpretation. And the second interpretation is no one cares. See, what you like, you keep on saying. Either we don't understand or we are not bothered. Okay. So anyway, I'm not saying that we are not bothered, or it's not that I was personally not interested in what Ananya said. So now I would like to add something on what Ananya said. Right. Some particular points that I would like to point out in your presentation, where I sort of had a different view from Ananya. First, you said that Mary had two different roles. Towards the end of the story, when she killed Tehsildar, she was like a Kali. And just before that, well, Ananya said that she submitted herself. She said, well, she would be accepting Tehsildar and trying to satisfy his desire. Ananya, don't you think that actually not for a second has Mary any idea of submitting herself to Tehsildar? When she said, when she proposed to Tehsildar that, well, leave me now, right? Come tomorrow on that day of spring festival, and we would, and I would unite with you and satisfy your lust and all that. Don't you think that it was not really a surrender or submission? Rather, it was a brilliant kind of a retreat that she made, strategic retreat. It was a device. It was a very intelligent move, right, that she did. Otherwise, perhaps Tehsildar would not have allowed her to move that day. And there was a possibility that that day Tehsildar would have raped her, right? Because she had lost her meshet and Tehsildar had grabbed her. So it was a brilliant presence of mind on the part of Mary that she tried to win Tehsildar's confidence, saying that, well, there is no reason for you to force yourself upon me. I would gladly accept your desire, and you just give me one more day. Tomorrow I would be coming, and don't say this to anybody. Remember, she said, don't say this to anyone. Simply, and she also fixed a particular place where Tehsildar is going to wait for her, and she would come, and then there would be that union between the two. So personally, I feel that there, your interpretation that there was a change in Mary, actually and thematically, is not correct. That is number one that I want to point out. And another point that you said was regarding, see, you brilliantly analyzed Kuruda, right? What happened, the peaceful image of Kuruda, and then suddenly the storm that came along with the greed of the people like Tehsildar and Banwari and others, right? That's a brilliant analysis of yours. And when you talked about Foucault and power and knowledge and all that, even that is more or less correct. But then one thing that I would like to add there in that context is that true, you know, with money, with power comes control. But try to understand the whole theme of the story, The Hunt. What is that theme? On one hand, yes, the male domination, the oppression on different levels, monetary, sexual, social, gender-wise. See, so on one hand, true, people who have power, they are trying to control everything. Right? You rightly quoted about that Australian father who impregnated Whitney and all. But then, don't you think that always power does not determine everything? And if you say Mary doesn't have that power, Mary was kind of a tribal woman, right? First, she was a woman. Don't forget that. She was a woman. And naturally, she was not physically as strong as males are. On the other hand, that means biologically, she was a weaker sex, weaker gender. So she doesn't have that kind of power, masculine power, right? The robustness of that, which you generally find in a man. On the other hand, because she belonged to the tribal community, well, whether she was really an insider or an outsider, or whether she was just on the margin, is a different issue. But try and understand, after all, she was Mary Oran, right? Mary Oran, don't forget that. The surname was Oran, right? So, and still, it was she who killed that powerful man, Tahsildar. So, what does it mean? It means that yes, people who have power can control. This is the general rule. But then exceptions can be made if you have that kind of determination, right? And in fact, later on, I'm going to discuss the conclusion of the story, where I would bring about all these analytical aspects of the story. And there I would tell you that actually Mahashweta Devi in the story The Hun is showcasing this brilliant attitude of resistance and opposition, right? That was done by a woman like Mary. So in that tribal culture, there is an inherent system that Jani Parab is in fact a kind of an opportunity where you turn the table, right? Where you subvert the roles. Okay. So Foucault's interpretation and Foucault's reference that power and control, you see, is partially right, not absolutely right in this context. You may argue, you may say, sir, how many Marys can be found? True. But then the fact that there is a Mary around also tells us that there is hope. Yes, yes, the women can be like Mary. Yes, among the oppressed, there can be people like Mary who will resist, who will protest, and who will turn the table if they are not dealt with correctly and with dignity. Okay, so that is second important point that I would like to make. Third important point that I would say is where also I could not be very much in agreement with Ananya's interpretation, where you were talking about nature, and you said that nature allowed itself to be looted. You said that, well, come loot me, come and take away my soul, right? Actually, try and understand the difference between a human being like Mary, whom Tahsildar wanted to molest, sexually assault, and was defeated, right? Nature reacts and takes revenge in its own way. Don't forget the present coronavirus situation, right? And again, history has told us that when you become over greedy and when you try to, you know, extract too many things from nature, nature reacts, nature takes revenge. You have volcanic eruption, you have floods, you have the result of the deforestation, so many things, you see. So I don't think that that interpretation really holds good if you say that nature allowed itself to be looted or ravished. No, nature has its own way of function. That means, well, you can always come and uproot the trees, right? You can really disturb the ecology. You can harm the environment, but then the environment will retaliate. It may take some time. Maybe the Tehsildar personally would not be punished, right? But in a way, because Tahsildar exploited, and somehow the Kuruda people also accepted the proposal of wages and other things that Tahsildar offered, well, at least they have to bear the brunt. Okay, so there also, Ananya, you have to just rethink whether it was really that kind of interpretation which we should give. Okay, anyway, I must thank you, Ananya. It was a brilliant presentation, and
Thank you, sir.
especially I must admire your confidence, right? I could see a good teacher in the making, a good teacher in the making, who would come and speak with confidence. And yes, and one more small thing that I would like to add: be a bit more careful about your language. 3 or 4 times you have made wrong usage of words, right? So you see, actually our problem is that because of the long association with teaching, see, the moment somebody says wrong, it strikes it immediately here. So I did not want to interrupt you when you made those errors, but I would just like to tell you that you should be a bit more careful about your language. As a teacher, you are not supposed to make any very silly kind of linguistic error, right? Otherwise, Ananya, it was a very, very nice presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, now